Good morning, my friends. Growing up, I had a lot of fears, and I'm not just talking about the fear of the dark or spiders, though. Let's be honest, those little guys are terrifying. I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. I was afraid that I'd never be accepted. I was afraid that my challenges would define me. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now. That fear, that voice in your head telling you can't. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. What if you fail? Let me tell you something. Fear is a liar. You see, fear's job is to stop you before you even try. But let me ask you, what if you succeed? What if your breakthrough is on the other side of that fear? What if the thing you're most afraid of is actually the doorway to your biggest blessing? I remember a time when I was scared to try something new. I thought, what if I fall? What if people laugh at me? But then I realized failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. So if you're afraid to start that business, take that exam, step on that stage, or chase that dream, let me challenge you. Do it afraid. Fear doesn't disappear when you sit and wait. It disappears when you stand up and walk through it. Fear has a funny way of creeping into our minds, whispering lies that sound so real. It doesn't come with flashing lights or a loudspeaker. No, fear is subtle. It's that little voice in your head that says, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if you're not good enough? I remember a time when I let fear hold me back. I wanted to step out to do something bigger, but every time I thought about it, that voice got louder. No way, you'll never make it. And I believed it. I let fear dictate my decisions. I let it tell me who I was and what I was capable of. But let me tell you something, I was wrong. Fear is a liar. It loves to magnify the worst case scenario. It loves to make you doubt yourself. It loves to remind you of every mistake you've ever made. And if you listen long enough, you'll start to believe that fear is telling the truth. But what if I told you that fear isn't based on facts? Fear is based on feelings, and feelings are unreliable. One day, you feel strong, the next you feel weak. One day, you feel like you can take on the world, and the next you don't even want to get out of bed. If you let fear drive your life, you'll always be at its mercy. Think about the times you wanted to try something new, but fear talked you out of it. Maybe it was speaking in public, starting a business, applying for that job, or even telling someone how much they mean to you. Fear convinced you that failure was certain. But let's be honest, how many times did the worst case scenario actually happen? Fear is an illusion. It's like a shadow. It looks scary when you see it on the wall. But if you turn on the light, you realize there's nothing to be afraid of. The problem is most people never turn on the light. They sit in the dark listening to fear, believing it's real. But you don't have to live like that. You don't have to believe the lie, because fear only has power when you listen to it. The moment you stop giving it attention, it starts to lose control over you. Now, I'm not saying fear isn't real. We all feel it. Even the strongest people in the world feel fear. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is simple. The successful ones don't let fear stop them. They feel it and move forward anyway. You know what's crazy? Some of the most amazing things in life are on the other side of fear. The job you dream about, the opportunity that could change your life, the relationships that could bring you joy, all of it is waiting for you. But fear will do everything it can to keep you from stepping forward. I've seen so many people give up on their dreams because fear told them they weren't good enough. I've seen people settle for a life they don't love because fear convinced them it was too risky to try. But I've also seen people who refused to listen to fear, who stepped out despite the doubts, and they are the ones who made it. So, what about you? Are you going to let fear control your life? Are you going to let it stop you from becoming everything you were meant to be? Or are you going to turn on the light, expose the lie, and step forward anyway? Because the truth is, fear has no real power. It only has the power you give it. And today you can choose to take that power back. Today you can decide that fear will no longer have a say in your life because you were made for more. Fear loves to make us focus on everything that could go wrong. It paints these vivid pictures in our minds: failure, embarrassment, disappointment. It convinces us that stepping out is too risky, that trying something new isn't worth it. And before we know it, we start to believe that fear is protecting us. But what if fear isn't protecting you? What if it's blocking you? I want to ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about what's on the other side of fear? We always think about the worst that could happen, but what if instead of failure you find success? What if instead of rejection, you find acceptance? What if instead of falling, you learn to fly? I remember a time when I stood at the edge of a big decision, terrified of what could go wrong. I kept thinking, what if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? But then someone asked me a simple question that changed my entire perspective. They said, what if it actually works? That moment made me realize something. Fear only shows us one side of the story, the negative side. It never shows us what happens if we push through. It never shows us the breakthrough, the joy, the growth, the opportunity waiting for us. Fear doesn't show you the future where you succeed. It only tries to keep you stuck in the past where you failed. But listen, your past does not define your future. Just because something didn't work out before doesn't mean it won't work now. Just because you've fallen before doesn't mean you can't stand up stronger this time. The truth is, the version of you standing here today is not the same person who failed yesterday. You've grown, you've learned, you've gotten stronger, and the only thing standing between you and the life you're meant to live is fear. Think about the people you admire, the ones who inspire you. Do you think they never felt fear? Of course they did. But the difference is they didn't stop there. They moved forward despite the fear. And because they did, they got to experience the reward on the other side. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if I try and it doesn't work? Let me tell you something you will never truly know unless you try. And even if it doesn't work out exactly the way you planned, you will have learned something. You will have grown. And that in itself is a victory. So let me challenge you today, what if instead of asking, what if I fail, you start asking, what if I succeed? What if your breakthrough is waiting just beyond the fear? What if your greatest opportunity is just one step outside of your comfort zone? Because I promise you this, everything you're hoping for, everything you're dreaming of, everything you were created for is on the other side of fear. And today you have a choice. You can stay where you are, let fear control you, and wonder for the rest of your life what could have been. Or you can step forward, take the risk, and find out for yourself what happens when you refuse to let fear win. The choice is yours. You know, for the longest time I thought failure was the worst thing that could happen to me. I thought if I failed, it meant I wasn't good enough, that I should just give up. That maybe I wasn't meant to do what I was trying to do. And maybe you felt the same way. Maybe you've tried something and it didn't work. Maybe you started a business and it failed. Maybe you applied for a job and they turned you down. Maybe you gave your best and it still wasn't enough. And after a while, you started believing that failure is a sign you should stop trying. But let me tell you something, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every successful person you see today has failed more times than you can count. But the difference between them and those who quit is simple. They didn't let failure stop them. Think about a baby learning to walk. Have you ever seen a baby fall down and say, well, I guess walking isn't for me? Of course not. They fall, they get back up, they try again, over and over until one day they're walking like they've been doing it their whole life. So why do we as adults think that failing means we should stop? When did we start believing that falling is final? Because it's not. Falling is part of the process. Every step you take, even the ones where you fall, is leading you forward. I've met so many people who never went after their dreams because they were afraid of failing. But you know what's even worse than failure? Regret. Because at least when you fail, you learn. At least when you try, you grow. But when you let fear stop you, you stay in the same place wondering for the rest of your life, what if I had just tried? Let me ask you something. What if you looked at failure differently? What if, instead of seeing it as a reason to quit, you saw it as a lesson? What if instead of letting it break you, you let it build you? Because every failure carries a lesson that prepares you for success. The truth is, you're not failing, you're learning. Every time you fall, you get a little stronger. Every time something doesn't work out, you get a little wiser. Every time you feel like you've reached the end, you're actually one step closer to where you're meant to be. Some of the greatest success stories in the world started with failure. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Walt Disney was fired from his first job because they said he lacked imagination. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Can you imagine if these people had given up because of failure? The world would have never known their greatness, and the same goes for you. Maybe you've tried and failed, but that doesn't mean you're not meant to succeed. It just means you're still in the process. It just means you're still growing. It just means you haven't given up yet. Because if you don't quit, you haven't failed. The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. As long as you keep going, as long as you keep learning, as long as you keep pushing forward, you are on your way to success. So the next time you fall, don't stay down. Get back up. The next time you face a setback, don't walk away. Keep moving. The next time fear tells you to quit, remind yourself failure is not the end. It's just a step. And every step is bringing you closer to the life you were meant to live. You know, so many people wait for fear to disappear before they take action. They think, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll take the step when I'm not scared anymore. But let me ask you something, what if that day never comes? What if fear never completely goes away? Because the truth is, fear doesn't leave before you take action. It leaves because you take action. I've met people who have amazing dreams to start a business, to write a book, to step on a stage, to change their lives. But instead of moving forward, they wait. They wait for the fear to pass, for the doubts to fade, for that perfect moment when they feel completely confident. And guess what? That moment never comes. Because fear isn't something that disappears when you sit still. Fear only loses its power when you face it head on. I remember the first time I had to speak in front of a crowd. My hands were sweaty, my heart was racing, and every part of me wanted to run away. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? What if I forget my words? What if people don't like what I have to say? But then I realized if I let those thoughts stop me, I would never step onto that stage. So, you know what I did? I stepped up afraid. I didn't wait for the fear to go away. I took the mic, my voice shaking, my heart pounding, and I spoke anyway. And something incredible happened. The longer I spoke, the quieter fear became. That's when I learned one of the most powerful lessons of my life. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite the fear. Too many people think they need to feel brave before they take action. But bravery isn't a feeling, it's a choice. It's choosing to step out even when your legs are shaking. It's choosing to speak even when your voice trembles. It's choosing to try even when you're afraid of failing. Think about it, some of the greatest breakthroughs in history happened because someone decided to act despite fear. The first astronauts who went to space, do you think they weren't scared? The first inventors, the pioneers, the leaders who changed the world, fear didn't spare them. The only difference is they did it afraid, and that's exactly what you need to do. Whatever is holding you back right now, whatever fear is whispering in your ear, do it anyway. Step out even if you're uncertain. Take the leap even if you're nervous. Start even if you don't feel ready. Because here's the secret. You will never feel 100% ready. You will never reach a point where fear completely vanishes before you take action. But the moment you move forward despite the fear, something amazing happens. Fear starts to fade. Confidence begins to grow. And you realize that the only thing standing in your way was a lie. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. Willing to take the first step. Willing to trust the process. Willing to believe that you are stronger than your fears. So whatever it is that you've been putting off, whatever dream you've been too afraid to chase, go for it. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Now. Do it afraid. Because once you do, you'll realize fear was never as powerful as you thought it was. You know, life has a way of knocking us down when we least expect it. One moment everything seems to be going well, and the next you find yourself on the ground wondering what went wrong. Maybe you've been there, maybe you're there right now. You tried, you gave it your best, and still things didn't work out the way you hoped. And now the question running through your mind is, should I even bother getting back up? I get it! Falling hurts. Failing hurts. Trying your hardest and still not seeing the results you want, it can be discouraging. But let me tell you something, falling is not the end unless you refuse to get back up. I think about a little child learning to walk. Do they get it right the first time? No. They take a step, they stumble, they fall. But do they stay down? No. They get back up. They try again, and again, until one day they're walking, running, jumping. But somewhere along the way as we grow up, we start believing the lie that falling means we should stop trying. That if something doesn't work out the first time, it's a sign we weren't meant to do it. But that's not true. The greatest lesson, the greatest growth, and the greatest victories come after we've fallen and chosen to rise again. I've had moments where I felt like staying down, moments where I thought maybe this is as far as I can go. Maybe I should just quit. But then I realized if I give up now, I'll never know what was waiting for me just beyond this challenge. Because every time you get back up, you're stronger than you were before. Every time you refuse to quit, you're proving to yourself that you are more powerful than your setbacks. Look at anyone who has ever achieved something great. Do you think they never fell? Do you think they never faced rejection, failure, disappointment? They did. The only difference is they didn't stay down. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school team. Imagine if he had said, well, I guess I'm just not meant to play basketball. No, he got back up. He kept practicing. And today he's a legend. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Can you imagine if she had believed that and given up? Instead, she got back up and became one of the most influential people in the world. The truth is, success isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. So maybe right now you're facing a tough season. Maybe you've been knocked down by failure, rejection, disappointment. But let me remind you, you are still in the fight. This is not the end of your story. You may have fallen, but you are not defeated. You may be struggling, but you are not finished. You have what it takes to get back up. So don't let this setback define you. Don't let this failure stop you. Get back up, stand tall, and keep moving forward. Because your greatest victory is still ahead of you. You know, life is full of choices. Every single day we make decisions what to wear, what to eat, where to go. But there's one decision that can change everything. One choice that can determine whether you stay stuck in fear or step into the life you were meant to live. And that choice is this: will you let fear control you, or will you take control of your life? Because here's the truth: fear will always be there, whispering reasons why you should stay where you are. It will tell you you're not ready. You're not good enough. It's too risky. What if you fail? And if you keep listening, if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you'll wake up years from now still in the same place, wondering where the time went. But today, right now, you have a chance to make a different decision. A decision that says, enough is enough. Fear will not rule my life anymore. I've met so many people who had dreams, who had big plans for their lives, but instead of chasing them, they let fear hold them back. And they always said the same thing: I'll do it one day. But here's the problem: one day never comes. Because if you don't decide today to take action, you'll keep finding reasons to wait. Maybe you've been telling yourself, I'll start when I feel more confident, but confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after you step out. Maybe you've been saying, I'll go after my dreams when I have more time. But time isn't given, it's made. Maybe you've been thinking, I'll wait until the fear goes away. But fear doesn't leave on its own. You have to face it. So my question to you is simple: when will you decide? When will you stop letting fear have the final say? Because the life you want, the future you dream of, is waiting on the other side of a single decision, the decision to stop waiting and start moving. I know it's not easy. I know stepping out feels scary. But the longer you delay, the more power fear has over you. The longer you hesitate, the harder it becomes to break free. But the moment you truly decide that fear will no longer control you, everything changes. Because making a decision isn't just about saying words, it's about taking action. It's about doing something today that your future self will thank you for. It's about proving to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. And let me tell you, when you make that decision, you'll feel something shift inside you. You'll realize that the power was in you all along. You'll see that fear was just a wall, and the moment you decide to walk through it, you'll discover that it was never as strong as you thought. So don't wait for another day, another week, another year to pass you by. The moment is now. The decision is yours. And when you choose to step out in faith, when you decide that fear will no longer hold you back, you'll finally start living the life you were meant to live. You know, we all have dreams, goals, and things we want to achieve, but so often we stop ourselves before we even start. Not because we aren't capable, not because we don't have what it takes, but because deep down we don't believe we can. We don't believe we're strong enough, smart enough, talented enough. We look at our challenges, our weaknesses, our past failures, and we think, maybe I'm just not meant for this. But let me ask you something. What if the only thing standing between you and your breakthrough is belief? What if for just a moment you stopped doubting yourself and started believing in what's possible? Because here's the truth: you are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you realize. You have more potential inside of you than you've ever given yourself credit for. But if you don't believe that, you'll never take the steps necessary to see it. I've met so many people with incredible dreams, but instead of going after them, they tell themselves, I can't do it. And because they believe that, they never even try. Not because they aren't capable, but because they've convinced themselves that they're not. But belief is powerful. The way you see yourself determines what you allow yourself to do. If you see yourself as weak, you'll act like you're weak. If you see yourself as a failure, you'll avoid trying anything new. If you see yourself as someone who's not good enough, you'll hold yourself back from opportunities. But what if you change that? What if you started seeing yourself as someone who can? Someone who is able, someone who is worthy, someone who has what it takes to overcome anything. Because I promise you, the only reason you feel limited is that you've been telling yourself a limited story. You've been repeating old lies, things people have said about you, things your past has made you believe, but none of that defines you. Your strength isn't in what others say about you. It's not even in what happened to you. Your strength is in how you choose to respond. It's in the moment you decide, I will not let fear win. I will not let doubt control me. I will not live my life believing that I'm not enough, because you are enough. You always have been. And the moment you start believing that, everything changes. I know what it feels like to doubt yourself, to look at the mountain in front of you and think, I don't know if I can climb this. But do you know how people climb mountains? One step at a time. They don't focus on the peak all at once. They just take the next step, and then the next. And before they know it, they've reached the top. And that's exactly how you overcome fear. That's how you break free from doubt. You stop waiting to feel ready and you take a step. You stop listening to the voice that says you can't, and you take a step. You stop letting past failures define you, and you take a step. Because every step forward is proof that you are stronger than the fear trying to hold you back. So maybe today all you need to do is take that first step. Maybe today you choose to believe not in fear, not in doubt, not in what could go wrong, but in yourself. Because once you believe in yourself, there is no limit to what you can do. My friend, fear is a liar. It will tell you that you're not ready, not strong enough, not capable, but today you've seen the truth. Fear is not the end of your story. Failure is not the final chapter. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt is just a stepping stone to something greater. You have the power to conquer your fears, to rise after every fall, to take action even when you're afraid. You don't need to wait for confidence to come. You build confidence by stepping forward. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. And most of all, you don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. So don't let fear keep you from the life you were meant to live. Don't let doubt steal your dreams. Stand up, step forward, and believe in yourself, because you are strong enough. You are capable, and you will overcome. Go out there, take action, and make your dreams a reality. Good luck, and thank you.